All right, I am going to call the Springfield City Council regular session to order with roll call.
Mayor Van Gordon.
Here.
Councilor Pitts.
Here.
Councilor Moe.
Here.
Councilor Rodley.
Here.
Councilor Stair.
Here.
Councilor Woodrow. And Councilor Pictionary.
Present.
And Councilor Woodrow is excused for the evening. Please join me in the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
That's the smoothest I've ever seen.
We'll get this Zoom technology down eventually. As we begin our meeting tonight, I would like to ask members of the audience who are joining us online to please keep yourself on mute until you are called on to provide public testimony. There are 2 times this evening designated for public testimony and will be listed as public hearings and business from the audience on the agenda. If you're joining us online with tablets, smartphones, computers, and wish to speak during that time, please use your raise hand feature when the agenda item is called. When we call on you, please state your name and ward or the general location in the city for the record. First item, please.
First item is Springfield Upbeat. Item number 1, Mayor's Recognition, National HIV Testing Day Proclamation. And Mayor, this is your item.
All right, thank you very much. This is the National HIV Testing Day Proclamation. So whereas the medical condition known as HIV and AIDS is still prominent and a national concern with 38,000 new infections each year, in the United States in 2018 alone, 1,739 youth under the age of 19 were diagnosed with HIV. Over 11,000 Oregonians were diagnosed with HIV in the last 39 years, with approximately 230 new HIV cases occurring in our state. Whereas 1 in 7 individuals are unaware that they are HIV positive, and only 1 in 10 Oregonians have ever been tested for HIV. And whereas testing is critical to HIV prevention, getting tested and actively managing HIV through treatment can not only reduce mortality and improve quality of life, but also reduces the risk of spreading HIV from a person living with HIV to their partner by 96%. Whereas each year on June 27th, the CDC, AIDS.gov, and other national and local entities across the United States organize National HIV Testing Day. This initiative is a national challenge for knowing one's HIV status and encourages individuals to obtain their HIV status either through in-person or self-testing. And whereas city officials are exceptionally situated to increase awareness and understanding among their constituents that all Americans need to be tested for HIV infections to not only protect their own health, but also to work towards eradicating HIV and AIDS, I, Sean Van Gordon, the Mayor of Springfield, do proclaim June 27, 2021 HIV Testing Day as a day to build awareness that knowing is power and encourage all residents to obtain their test for their HIV status. Next item, please.
Next item is the consent calendar.
I would make a motion that we approve the consent calendar.
Second.
All right, it's been moved and seconded. Neil, could you call the roll, please?
Councilor Pitts.
Aye.
Councilor Moe.
Yes.
Councilor Rodley.
Looks like we may have lost Corey.
Did we lose? Let's see if she's in the attendees. We can move her back.
We did lose her, and I am monitoring to pull
Okay.
her back as soon as she shows up.
Councilor Stair.
Aye.
Councilor Woodrow. And Councilor Pictionary.
Aye.
The motion passes with 4 yeses, 1 abstention, and 1 absent. And if we get Corey back, we can ask her to see how she voted. All right, next item, please.
Mayor, your next item is public hearings. You have 4 public hearings this evening. Public hearing number 1 is a public hearing for the declaration of Gateway Area Surplus Real Property. Courtney Griesel and Christina Kraz are here for the staff report.
Good evening. This evening, the item is a formal public hearing for declaration of gateway area property as surplus. Property is unaddressed, but specifically, we're talking about a portion of property purchased by the city from ODOT earlier this year. It's located at the corner of Gateway and Beltline, commonly referred to as the site of the Springfield flame sculpture. The current surplus area is approximately a ½ acre, and it is not necessary for the purpose of maintaining the flame sculpture. This surplus is also specific to the council's April 12th approval of a purchase and sale agreement with the adjacent property owner for this portion of the site. The sale price included in that approved purchase and sale agreement is $224,552, which does reflect our purchase price from ODOT. Although it is a smaller portion of the property, we're not selling all of it. Prior to closing that transaction, the council must hold a public hearing to declare the property as surplus. So that is why we're here this evening. I am happy to take any questions. I do have a visual if that would be helpful, but it's also included in your packet.
All right, are there any questions before we open the public hearing? All right, then I'm going to open the public hearing and give Neil just a second to see if anybody raises their hand.
Mayor, it does not appear we have any hands for this item.
All right, then I'm going to close the public hearing and then I will entertain discussion or a motion.
Discussion? Okay, I'd like to make a motion that we adopt resolution number 1.
Second.
All right, so it's been moved and seconded. Neil, could you call the roll, please?
Counselor Pitts,
Aye.
Counselor Moe,
Yes.
Counselor Rodley,
Yes.
Counselor Stair,
Aye.
Counselor Woodrow, and Counselor Pictionary.
Aye.
The motion passes 5-0 with 1 absent. Next item, please.
Next item is the fiscal year 21 supplemental budget 3 and appropriations transfer. Neil Obringer is here for the staff report.
Good evening, Mayor and Council. As Neil said, this is the final supplemental budget of FY21. Staff requests that Council hold a public hearing on the proposed supplemental budget, and after which I'm happy to answer any questions on the specific items included.
All right. Are there any questions before I open the public hearing? Very good. Then I'm going to open the public hearing. And anybody who is wanting to speak to this item, please raise your hand. And then we'll give just a minute to see if anybody raises their hand.
Mayor, we're not seeing anyone for this particular item.
Very good. Then I'm going to close the public hearing. And then I will entertain a motion, or if people have questions or discussion.
I'd like to make a motion that we adopt the city budget for fiscal year 21-22.
Second.
You might,
Mayor, I believe the motion would be for resolution number 2.
Okay, well, yeah, I've said, yeah, you're right.
we're one.
Sorry. Adopt is clear up above the line. So let me do that again. Let me make a motion to adopt the fiscal year 21 supplemental budget and appropriations transfer. Okay, thank you. I was wrong.
And that was resolution number 2, correct?
Yeah.
I second that.
All right. It's been moved and seconded to adopt resolution number 2. Neil, could you call the roll, please?
Yes, Counselor Pitts,
Aye.
Counselor Moe,
Yes.
Counselor Rodley,
Yes.
Counselor Stair,
Aye.
Counselor Woodrow, and Counselor Pictionary.
Aye.
motion passes 5-0 with 1 absent. Next item, please.
The next item is fiscal year 2021-2022 city budget adoption. Nathan Bell is here for the staff report.
Right, getting that figured out. Good evening, Mayor and Council. Back in late April and early May, the Budget Committee met to discuss and recommend a fiscal year 22 budget to the Council. This is the next step in that process. The resolution and attachment in front of you this evening is the budget as recommended by the Budget Committee. So we are asking that you tonight conduct a public hearing on the fiscal year 2021-22 city budget and not adopt a resolution adopting the fiscal year 21-22 City of Springfield budget, making appropriations, and imposing and categorizing the taxes. And before I turn it over to you, are there any questions for me? All right.
All right. Is there any other questions or comments before I open the public hearing? Then I'm going to open the public hearing, and Neil, could you invite the first person up to speak?
Yes, Mayor. As the agenda mentions, additional testimony time has been approved for Budget Committee member Holly Shaper. And Holly, you should be able to unmute your microphone now.
Great. Can you hear me?
We can hear you.
Great. Thank you. Holly Shaper, Ward 2. At the final Budget Committee meeting, I made a motion to transfer $250,000 from the Police Personnel Fund to the Insurance Fund. This motion was never intended to address the broader issue of culture change that I completely agree is both necessary and will require long, focused conversations centered around all of the affected communities. Now I would like to provide the carefully considered rationale behind my motion. Here are the facts. First, $250,000 is just 1.3% of the $19 million police personnel fund. Second, Acting Chief Nywert stated that they were down at least 10 staff within the department, and Lieutenant Crawley stated that even if they could hire that many officers, they did not have the FTO capacity to train them all. If they aren't fully staffed, they don't need the entire $19 million personnel fund. Third, the insurance fund at the time of the motion contained $1.4 million, saved from when the city had considered self-insurance. Fourth, the city's deductibles due to high police and jail claims are currently $250,000 per claim for police and jail and $50,000 per claim for other city claims. Any incidents that occur between July 1st, 2020 and June 30th, 2021 will be subject to this policy. Currently, we have at least 2 tort notices and 1 lawsuit against SPD from this time period. Additionally, there is a moratorium on the length of time people have to file tort notices and lawsuits due to COVID. So we are not yet to a point of knowing how many lawsuits may be filed with incident dates in this last year. There may be more to come. Fifth, the city nearly lost insurance coverage this year, but was able to keep it, albeit with a huge increase in the per claim deductibles to $500,000 per claim for police and jail and $100,000 per claim for other city claims, and an increase of 2.8% in the insurance premium. This policy is in effect from July 1st, 2021 to June 30th, 2022. Sixth, according to the insurance memo from June 7th, if we are able to retain insurance indefinitely after 2022, the per claim deductibles will increase by an average of $300K per year indefinitely until our 10-year loss ratio, which is claim costs divided by premiums, drops from 226% to 60% or less. And seventh, separate from the cost of lawsuits, the alleged misbehavior of SPD also costs the city in terms of independent investigations, such as the Brazil report, the ongoing investigation into the allegations of falsifying documents against former Chief Lewis, and the ongoing investigation into sexual harassment allegations. While these investigations are important to provide external insight into the department, the money to pay for them has to come from somewhere. Insurance is a punitive system by nature. Consider your car insurance. Will your insurance provider spread your increasing premium evenly across your neighbors in response to your bad behaviors? Currently, city policy is to hold departments blameless for their liability. So that means that despite causing the near loss in liability insurance and engaging in behavior which led to justified internal and external lawsuits, the police department will not be held accountable. Instead, we will take money from DPW, the library, finance, HR, IT, CAO, CMO, and fire and life safety. So we may see service and personnel loss across the city as a direct result of this. My proposed $250,000 would not solve the issue, but it would increase the insurance fund by 18% and place more of the burden on the department that is responsible for causing this situation, instead of burdening other departments that are also running short-staffed and underfunded. Insurance is also a risk calculation, and the city's insurance company is sending a very clear message that they view SPD to be a risky liability based on the past 10 years. The best solution would be for SPD not to engage in behavior that leads to lawsuits in the first place, and the entire $1.4 million in the insurance fund plus the proposed $250,000 transfer could be saved for better uses for the city. Changes in SPD, which could lead to this ideal outcome, have been started through the hiring of Chief Shearer, the revisions to the use of force and code of conduct policies, and a commitment to implementing the recommendations in the Brazil and OIR reports. But if we are to hold SPD accountable, keep the city financially viable, and not unnecessarily penalize other departments, it is appropriate for SPD to contribute to the insurance fund. Thank you.
Is that perfect?
Neil, do we have anybody else?
Mayor, it appears we have no other hands up on this item.
All right, then I am going to close the public hearing. And then I will entertain discussion or a motion.
Any discussion?
Um,
Sorry, that's you.
Go ahead, Leonard.
Sorry, Steve. I hope I didn't step on your comment.
No,
I
I'm
wanted to
talking,
thank-
Mayor should have been talking, yeah.
I wanted to thank Holly Shaper for her comments here. And I wanted also just to convey to her and to everybody in the Springfield community that this is something that we're taking very seriously and that we are continuing to work on. It's not going to happen, as she said, overnight. It's going to be a year over year and possibly generational process. We know that this is probably not going to satisfy the critics of the department. There are many critics, and many of the critics have good points. I would suggest that there are cities without police departments. I don't know of any of them that are Springfield size. So given that we have to have a police department, I think that we are doing the best thing right now for the city and for its citizens in just trying to reform it from within. Thanks.
Any other discussion?
Well spoken, Leonard. Okay.
Damien?
So thanks, Holly. Yeah, I mean, I think if that would have been addressed early on, things would be a lot different. However, one thing that I do wonder, just because I've seen it recently, is that I saw that the police department was hiring. And, you know, I saw that they were offering new incentives and all that stuff. And the truth of the matter is, especially when it comes to minoritized individuals, to come here and stay here, it's going to cost money. And so now if this money isn't a part of it or won't contribute to the recruitment and retention of new police personnel and the job postings aren't a part of that, then okay, then that makes sense. But I'm really curious how this money, if it was to be used to end up hiring those people, and the whole being shorthanded. I mean, you know, as I said before, crime is not decreasing, and it's unfortunate. And you know, I know the police are over, well, not all of them, but you know, overworked. But I'm just curious if them not being able to train people is a reason that they're hiring more. And so I just would honestly want to know more about where that money will come from to hire those people for the jobs that they've posted and things as such. But once again, thank you.
All right. So if there's no more discussion, I think we can entertain a motion.
All right, then I would make, if I get on the right line here, I'd like to make a motion that we adopt resolution number 2, fiscal year 21-22 city budget.
Second.
All right, Neil, could you please call the roll?
Mayor, I apologize. I believe the fiscal year 21-22 budget is a resolution number 3.
You know, they put
Yep,
those
he's
lines
right.
up there
He's right.
over them, and they're so spaced, it's hard to tell which one is it, which is which. And you're right. So I'll do it again. I'd like to make a motion that we adopt resolution number 3, which is the adoption of fiscal year 2021-22 city budget.
Second again.
All right, Neil, please call the roll.
Yes, Counselor Pitts,
No.
Counselor Mo,
Yes.
Counselor Rodley,
Yes.
Counselor Stair,
Yes.
Counselor Woodrow, and Counselor Pictionary.
Yes.
All right, so it sounds like it's 4 yeses, 1 no, 1 absent, and then the motion passes.
Thank you.
Next item, please.
Mayor, the next item is public hearing number 4, a resolution certifying the city's eligibility to receive state shared revenue from cigarette, marijuana, gas, and liquor taxes. And Neil Obringer is back for the staff report.
Good evening again, Mayor and Council. This item is part of our normal certification process required to receive state shared revenue. Staff requested the council hold a public hearing on this item and then approve the associated resolution. The final step in the whole process will be for staff to file a copy of the resolution with the state of Oregon. Other than that, I'm happy to take any questions you might have.
All right, are there any other questions? Very good. Then I'm going to open the public hearing. And we're going to give it a minute to see if anybody wants to speak to this item.
Mayor, I see no hands on this item.
All right, then I'm going to close the public hearing and we can entertain a motion for resolution number 4.
I'll try and do better this time. I'd like to make a motion that we adopt resolution number 4, certifying this.
Oh, sorry.
I could have ended there. Certifying the city's eligibility to receive state shared revenues from cigarette, marijuana, gas, and liquor taxes.
Second.
All right, it's been moved and seconded. Neil, could you call the roll, please?
Counselor Pitts,
Yes.
Counselor Mo,
Yes.
Counselor Rodley,
Yes.
Counselor Stair,
Yes.
Counselor Woodrow, and Counselor Pictionary.
Yes.
All right, the motion passes. 5 yeses and then 1 absent. Next item, please.
The next item is business from the audience. We'll give folks a moment to raise their hands. We currently have 29 attendees in the audience. Mayor, we currently have 1 hand raised. And okay, so we're getting a couple hands now. Our first speaker is Elizabeth Utterback, followed by Amy Cawthron. And Lizzie, you should be able to unmute your microphone.
Thank you. Hello, good evening. This is Lizzie Otherback from Ward 3. I promise I waited before pressing raise hand. I did not intend to be the first person. Anyways, I just have a couple of quick questions tonight about the May 30th police shooting that happened on Broadway Street here in Springfield. I actually heard the shot while I was on a walk in my neighborhood with friends, and we convinced ourselves it was fireworks, and then we were upset that folks would be lighting fireworks this year, even with the dry conditions, the terrible fires and smoke last year. And of course, we found out the next day that it wasn't fireworks and was actually the sound of a gun being fired. At the June SPAC meeting, I was able to ask Chief Shearer a few questions about whether the body-worn cameras were on and live during this incident. He said the DA controls the flow of that information. That was helpful in learning about how all this works. I reached out to the DA, and at that time, she said she was waiting on the IDFIT report. Since then, I see that the DA has commented on the shooting and that it's been reported on in various news outlets. However, from what I've seen, all of this reporting has been silent on whether the body-worn cameras were actually on and live. I recognize this technology is new to all of us here in Springfield. So I just have a few questions. I'm curious whether any counselors have been asking questions about this shooting and the cameras. Counselor Stairs said during the budget public hearing just a second ago that y'all are taking police accountability seriously and that it will take time. I agree. And there are things that can be done now. For example, we can ask questions. I did not hear the council liaison at the SPAC meeting ask a single question about this incident during the SPAC meeting. That was disappointing. Anyways, do you know or can you find out when the public would expect to see that footage from the body-worn cameras or in-car cameras from the May 30th incident? And if the cameras were not on, when will the public be told this? And when will we be told why they weren't on if that was the case? Thanks.
Our next speaker is Amy Cawthron, and no one else in the queue at this point. And Amy, you should be able to unmute your microphone.
All right. Good evening, everyone. Amy Cawthron, previously from Ward 5. And today I actually don't have any suggestions for you. I'm trying to listen to you talk about culture change and take it seriously. But I do think the broad idea of culture change is a bit futile without clear goals in mind. So I'm asking the council, what is your goal with this culture change? Are you solely looking to stop lawsuits from happening? Are you finally listening to some of the discussions that we've had over the past year not relating to lawsuits? And then the other side of that, I understand that change is hard, but I also think there needs to be some sort of timeline. I don't think the next Stacy Kinney family will be happy if you say in a couple years, we're working towards cultural change and it could take generations. We need to have solid goals. We need to have solid timeframes. And I would just like to know from the council what those are. Thank you. I see the rest of my time.
Mayor, it appears we have no other speakers for business from the audience.
All right, thank you. I'm going to open it up to see if anybody has any council response. Corey?
Is there, I want to thank folks for coming and sharing. As always, I really appreciate it. I know that when I got the information about the incident on the 30th, that one of my first questions was also around the body cameras, because I believe we'd only had them for a week. Is there someone here who could give an update publicly about to answer those questions about, when the footage would be available, the use? Are we at a place where we could do that?
Thank you, Councillor Rodley. I'm going to, oops, let me get my video up here too. Thank you. I believe Chief Scherer is in the audience and is able to answer that question probably far more thoroughly than I can. And he has a really cool background photo too. Check that out. Thanks.
Good evening. Yeah, I can absolutely respond to Elizabeth's question about the police shooting and the body camera footage. So this is the first officer involved shooting that Springfield's been involved with since we got the body cameras approximately three and a half weeks ago. Late Friday is when the DA rendered a decision that the use of deadly force in defense of another was justified. So we started having the discussions today about when can we release the body camera footage. So what we need to do is we want to craft a policy so that we can consistently, every time, no matter what the circumstances, respond with a release of information in the same way on the same time frame. So we're actively trying to come up with a policy right now that'll allow us to do that in a consistent manner as we move forward. I want to get that out as soon as possible. I have not seen the footage yet, so I don't know what's on it, but there is footage to answer the question. So that's kind of where we are with that. We want to be as transparent as possible, get that footage out, but we need to craft a policy so it's consistent. We can post that policy, it'll answer the question for everybody, and we can treat things the same way every single time. So that's what we're working on right now.
Joe,
When you're speaking, can we get a camera view, please? So we see who we're talking to. We're trying to get used to you still. Perfect.
That better?
Yes, sir. Thank you.
All right, you betcha.
all right. So Chief, do we have any idea when it's going to be out, or is it, because I know you're working on the policy, you're kind of thinking through it, but what does that mean from a timeline perspective?
Well, there's a wide variety of what agencies do across the country. We want to do something that Springfield wants to get it out as quickly as possible, but still take into account, that this one is unique too, because there is an open, ongoing criminal investigation related to this person, because this was not a fatal shooting. The person survived, fortunately. So there's still an open and ongoing criminal investigation, and this is all evidence in that criminal investigation. So it presents a challenge on the one hand, but we're fortunate that it result in a fatality. If it would have been a fatality, we probably would have released that as soon after the DA's decision as we possibly could.
Joe?
So would it be fair or safe to assume that based on the questions that are out there, that it will get released as soon as you're able to do so, both ethically and legally, correct?
Absolutely, without question.
And so we don't know exactly when that will happen, but when it does, you'll send them out, you get that out?
Absolutely.
Thank you so much.
Leonard?
I just like to thank Acting Chief Scherer for being transparent on this, and I trust that it's the beginning of a good and transparent relationship with us and with the public. Thanks.
Steve?
We've been asking for a culture change. I know it's going to be slow. We have a new chief in there that knows that. And I think we're starting to change, and I'm really grateful. Thank you.
Damien?
Good evening, y'all. First of all, I want to say happy Father's Day to all the fathers and father figures out there. I want to give my condolences to the family and loved ones of Christopher Friedrich, who was a co-worker of mine at Olympus College of Business and also a resident of Springfield, who apparently died by accidental drowning in Maine. They recently found his body last week. And so just want to give my condolences to anybody who may have known him. I didn't know him well, but whenever I heard his name, you knew that you were going to get a good product. And so, like I said, the reason I bring this up is because he was a resident of Springfield. Now, as far as culture change, so I say this a lot, and I'm actually working through this for my job and realizing that there are a lot of things that don't exist in Eugene, Springfield, or Springfield specifically, that will enhance culture. What if we had more cultural fests where people can actually learn about other cultures? You know, there's been a big push of people talking about critical race theory, but the truth of the matter is, if you can't see theory in action, then the educational piece is only going to go so far. And so I think about various organizations that need to do some self-reflection and figure out, why aren't certain voices at the table? What are they doing to make the city better? Why aren't they collaborating? And so to me, collaboration is a big, huge part of it, but it could be as simple as having Black hair care products at the grocery store, or, you know, having different businesses that cater to, you know, different types of people, having barbecue grills in the park, you know, having some of these festivals that Eugene has that focus on minoritized issues. You know, it'd be great to see a Juneteenth festival. It'd be great to see a Pride festival, you know, here in Springfield. And that's the thing, is like, without hands-on experience, sometimes it's really hard to see how cultural change will come. And it's hard. We're all tired. We all have a lot going on. A lot of us have full-time jobs. Some of us are caregivers. And so it's tough. But the way I define culture is going to be a little different from you. For anybody. And when I say you, I mean, you know, I'm not pointing out you specifically, Amy, but it's going to look a little different. Some things will be slow. Some things will be pretty fast. As crazy as this sounds, the fact that we're getting a Chick-fil-A and a In-N-Out is going to ultimately change the culture, because college students who would never step foot in Springfield are going to start coming here. And so it's little small things. I don't think it's a documented plan. I think it starts with self-reflection. But I also think it's the little things. You know, I shouldn't be excited walking down the street when somebody makes eye contact and speaks to me. I shouldn't be excited when I get pretty good service at a restaurant. But for me and a lot of people who look like me, that's what bugs us the most. It's not necessarily blatant racism. We can deal with that, but it's just like the simple stuff of being a good citizen to each other. And like I said, it's easier said than done. You know, it's going to focus on curriculum within schools. It's going to focus on different events. It's going to focus on all of us coming together and trying to make this place better. So yeah, so I'm kind of rambling now. But like I said, it's not a detailed, bullet-pointed PowerPoint plan. And the way that culture change is going to look is going to be completely different for all of us. But the common goal should be to be unified, to be happy, and to be safe.
All right, anybody else? Okay, I just wanted to make two quick comments. One of them was Lizzie asked the question about specifically, did we all ask if, you know, about the body worn cameras when we heard about the May 30th incident? That was actually the very first question that I had was, hey, did we, right, going into a week where you just learned how to do it, you know, you just got the equipment on there, did we successfully execute it? Second thing that I wanted to say is, like, I really appreciate the fact that Chief Scheer, you're working on writing an actual policy so people can understand what's expected, especially when there's ongoing investigations. You know, to put evidence out there in the space, because that's what a body worn camera is. It's essentially evidence, and we all should be collectively patient. And I mean, we as in a community, you know, people in the public and the city council, especially with ongoing investigations, there's really, really tight and stringent rules about this. And then lastly, I really wanted to make a comment because I've heard, you know, I think I heard in public testimony a couple of times about why didn't we comment on sort of ongoing investigations. As an elected official, it would be highly inappropriate for any of us to sort of comment on investigations that the police had, that they were working towards. Sometimes if they are incidents of high community need, we get briefings about some of the facts, but we don't have all the facts. And ongoing investigations really are handled by the police. And they really stay, like, we wouldn't talk about them in public. So I just want to make sure everybody's sort of clear on, if it's ongoing, we don't even know sometimes, right? Because people deserve a fair and unbiased investigation into the facts of any individual case. All right, I think we're ready for the next item.
Mayor, the next item is business from the City Council. Item number 1, committee appointments. Planning Commission appointments. Sandy Belson is here for the staff report.
Good evening, Mayor and Council. Can you hear me okay? Thanks. So this evening, we are asking you to take action to appoint 2 new planning commissioners. You would reappoint Commissioner Grace Bergen and appoint Andrew Buck. I do want to point out there is one slight difference from your work session interviews that we are changing Commissioner Bergen's expiration date to be in December so that it aligns up with the timelines for your batch recruitment for the various committees, commissions, and boards. So any questions, let me know.
I don't see any questions. Is there a motion?
I would like to make a motion that we reappoint Grace Bergen to the Planning Commission, term to expire December 31st, 2025.
Second.
It's been moved and seconded. Neil, could you call the roll, please?
Counselor Pitts,
Aye.
Counselor Mo,
Yes.
Counselor Rodley,
Yes.
Counselor Stair,
Aye.
Counselor Woodrow, and Counselor Pictionary.
Aye.
5 yeses, no nos, and 1 absent. Steve, you're up again.
Okay, we didn't talk about. I'd like to make a motion that we appoint Andrew Buck to replace Commissioner Troy Sherwood, who resigned in January. Buck's term will expire December 31st, 2024.
Second.
All right, it's been moved and seconded. So Neil, could you call the roll, please?
Yes, Counselor Pitts,
Aye.
Counselor Mo,
Yes.
Counselor Rodley,
Yes.
Counselor Stair,
Aye.
Counselor Woodrow, and Counselor Pictionary.
Aye.
5 yeses, 0 nos, and 1 absent. Next item, please.
Next item is any additional business from the council.
All right, I'm looking around. I'm not seeing any hands going up, so I think we can keep on going.
Next item is business from the city manager. We have 4 items under this topic. Item number 1, a grant application for implementation of middle housing. Mark Rust is here for the staff report.
Good evening, Mayor and City Councilors. Thank you. I'm Mark Rust, Senior Planner with the City of Springfield, and tonight we are asking the council to consider adoption of the resolution to support staff making an application to the Department of Land Conservation and Development that would provide assistance in our moving towards adoption of the new middle housing rules as mandated by the state. This is tentative funding at this point. The legislature at the state level has not authorized the budget yet, so they are doing this preemptively in hopes that it is passed. And this will assist us with writing the legal findings necessary in order to process the middle housing rules. So I'm happy to answer any questions.
Are there any questions?
I'd like to make a motion to adopt resolution number 5, which is the grant application for implementation of middle housing.
Second.
All right, Neil, could you call the roll, please?
Counselor Pitts,
Aye.
Counselor Mo,
Yes.
Counselor Rodley,
Yes.
Counselor Stair,
Aye.
Counselor Woodrow, and Counselor Pictionary.
Aye.
All right, the motion passes. 5 yeses, 0 nos, and 1 absent. Next item, please.
Item number 2, a grant application for a buildable lands inventory. Sandy Belson is back for the staff report.
Thank you. So this is another grant application also to the Department of Land Conservation and Development that we plan to submit by the end of this month. And this funding would allow us to add resource to the effort to create first a parcel specific comprehensive plan map on which we would base planned land uses that is more specific than the Metro Plan diagram that we are currently using. And then to take the first step of conducting the buildable lands inventory, to conduct the buildable lands inventory to get us closer to be able to conduct the housing needs analysis that is required by the state for Springfield to address our future housing needs.
Are there any questions?
I'd like him ready for me.
No one, Steve. I just wanted to point out this one's something we've talked about for a very long time. I was really excited to see this on the agenda because this is a missing piece we have in the planning world. So go ahead, Steve.
Okay, I'd like to make a motion that we adopt resolution number 6, which is the grant application for buildable lands inventory.
Second.
All right, Neil, could you call the roll, please?
Counselor Pitts,
Aye.
Counselor Mo,
Yes.
Counselor Rodley,
Yes.
Counselor Stair,
Aye.
Counselor Woodrow, and Counselor Pictionary.
Aye.
Motion passes. 5 yeses, 0 nos, and 1 absent. Next item, please.
Item number 3, the Raise Grant Match Pledge. Tom Boyott is here for the staff report.
Good evening, Mayor and councilors. Bringing you tonight the Raise Grant Match Pledge resolution. Eugene and Springfield, as I'm sure you know, are in the process of applying for a $25 million raise grant to continue construction on Franklin Boulevard in Springfield and to initiate boulevard improvements in Eugene. This is our second run at it as a joint ask. Part of the federal notice of funding opportunity requires that city councils demonstrate their intent to match a successful award by passing this resolution. So it's fairly straightforward. We're funding this similar to how we funded the proposed match last time, and also to how we contributed and helped put the match pot together on Franklin Phase 1, even though that wasn't a Tiger or a Build or a Raise award. And then I think the last thing I'd like to say is that our Raise Grant team is led by Monica Sather, who's a senior planner in Sandy's group, supported by Emma Newman, our transportation planner, and also Christy Kruger, who's our capital projects managing civil engineer. So they're doing the work, and I'm just bringing this to you tonight for hopefully your approval, and I'm happy to answer any questions.
So Tom, the one question I had was the total, if we got this grant, would this complete the build out of Franklin?
Mayor, it would not. This would take us to Henderson. And then it's another long stride to Glenwood Boulevard, and then the match line under I-5.
So I just wanted to offer a little bit of perspective, right? Like we're taking steps forward in Glenwood here, but getting the infrastructure in place is still going to be a long, hard slog. And with that sort of project team, if we get the money, I'm sure we'll be done 8 weeks early and under budget.
That's right.
All right, Steve.
Okay.
I have a question. Go
ahead, Damien.
So if we do get the money, is any of that money going to be used to fix the bridge? I understand there was a fire, and there was some substantial damage. Is any of that money going to be used for that, or is that a completely separate thing?
The bridges are completely separate. The recent fire was on the railroad bridge, and the railroad's all over that right now. They already had a plan to replace the timbers. We've been working on permitting with them. ODOT's currently upgrading the westbound bridge, which is the older structure. They're just doing some cathode protection and rust work and some other things. I guess I'll just say, fortunately, we don't own those bridges, and the state does at this point in time. That, bridges are tremendous assets and they take a lot of upkeep.
Bridge was built in 1928, and the concrete bridge is built in 1957.
All right, Steve, I think we're ready for you.
Okay, I'd like to make a motion that we adopt resolution number 7, which is to raise the grant match pledge.
Second.
Neil, could you call the roll, please?
Counselor Pitts.
Aye.
Counselor Mo.
Yes.
Counselor Rodley.
Yes.
Counselor Stair.
Aye.
Counselor Woodrow, and Counselor Pictionary.
All right.
All right, 5 yeses, 0 nos, and 1 absent. The motion passes. Next item, please.
Next item, any other business from the city?
Just one quick item, Council. I appreciate Chief Sear being here this evening to talk about body worn cameras and how we are going to roll out the implementation of footage. I just wanted to make a comment about policing in general. We all hear on the news or in social media when things don't go well. I mean, it seems like what everybody wants to focus on. And I want to just kind of tell you about a situation last week that was handled very well by our police department, because these two types of things don't get reported in media. But on June 15th, the Springfield police had to take a subject that had multiple warrants and place this person under arrest. The situation was pretty dicey. They were in a house and being uncooperative and threatening, the kind of situation that, frankly, can be escalated to pretty negative consequences. And I want to say that our police department managed to work with this person, get them in custody safety. There was no need to discharge any kind of weapon or anything like that. They worked together, being creative, using communication, relying on dispatchers and SWAT and a variety of people in our PD to safely arrest somebody that had some pretty serious charges and that could have gone a lot worse, I guess is what I'm saying. In addition to that, the following day, one of our lieutenants went and checked in with the grandmother of the person that was taken into custody, and she had praise for the way that our police department handled that situation, knowing that it could have been a poor outcome given how the subject was acting at the time. So I just want to let you know that change is happening. It is incremental, but it's here. So thank you.
All right, thank you, Nancy. Steve.
I read that report, and the last sentence was the best ever, and that's where the police went down and talked to his grandmother about the situation the next day. That's the best thing we can do. We need to continue that.
All right, next item, please.
Next item is any business from the city attorney.
No additional business tonight. Thank you.
All right. Before I adjourn us, just remember that next week is going to be a pretty long meeting. We do have an additional public meeting again next week before we go on break. So I appreciate everybody's flexibility as we get through these last couple of items. All right. Thank you so much. Have a good night. We are adjourned.
Bye.